ABC 10 News at 7 starts now.
The coronavirus variant raging through India is now in San Diego County. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. There is at least one confirmed case of the variant in the county, brought here by a young woman who traveled to India. Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth on what we're learning about the variant some call the double mutant.
Record-breaking COVID cases in India have left hospitals overwhelmed and patients desperate for care. India recorded nearly half of all the infections worldwide last week, and experts think part of the reason is the B.1.617 variant. County health officials now say a woman in her 20s was hospitalized here in San Diego with that variant. She had traveled from India to San Diego in late March and wound up in the hospital in early April. She was not vaccinated, and she was released from the hospital after less than a week.
We've only detected a handful of cases in the state, one in San Diego and a few in the Bay Area.
On Tuesday, the Biden administration imposed a ban on travel from India by non-citizens. The 617 variant was first found in the state of Maharashtra, and it's become the dominant lineage there. It has several mutations, but it's nicknamed the double mutant because it has two important mutations on the part of the virus that attaches to cells.
We don't know what the combination of those two mean. At the minimum, it's going to mean that it's more transmissible.
UC San Francisco's Dr. Peter Chin-Hong says one of the mutations in the India variant is similar to one found in the South Africa and Brazil variants, a mutation that seems to make those more elusive. But a small study in India recently looked at blood samples in a petri dish from a few dozen people, and it found antibodies produced by the Novavax vaccine did neutralize the 617 variant. Dr. Chin-Hong says that bodes well for the vaccines available in the U.S.
If the Indian variant came in November or December of 2020 in California, it would be a different scenario than now, because we have a lot of people protected both from natural immunity and from vaccine-induced immunity.
He says India is at much greater risk from the variant than we are because just 2.1% of India's population is vaccinated. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
This afternoon, a county spokesperson told ABC 10 News they identified one person who came in close contact with the woman who contracted the variant, but that person did not develop any symptoms.
The county reported another 219 new COVID cases today, while our test positivity rate dropped down to just 1%. Another 3 San Diegans have lost their lives to COVID, bringing our total to just over 3,700. CVS is now offering walk-in vaccinations. Today, the chain announced that you can get a shot at its pharmacies without an appointment. Same-day appointments, including some as soon as an hour after scheduling, are available at cvs.com. Walmart and Sam's Club also announced a shift to walk-up appointments this week.
A victory in court for Governor Gavin Newsom. Today, an appeals court ruled the governor's use of executive powers during the pandemic is legal. 2 Republican assemblymen had sued, claiming Newsom's numerous executive orders are unconstitutional. A lower court judge agreed, but today the appeals court overturned that ruling and sided with Newsom. The assemblymen say that they will appeal to the state Supreme Court. You can stay on top of any new developments with coronavirus by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store.
We're learning new information from court documents about the captain of the human smuggling boat that crashed Sunday off Point Loma. Antonio Hurtado, a U.S. citizen, is accused of trying to smuggle 32 people into the U.S. A woman and 2 men, all Mexican nationals, died. Investigators say most of the passengers paid $15,000 to $18,000 to be smuggled into the country.
The smugglers really just don't care about the people they're exploiting. All they care about is lining their own pocket for profit.
Hurtado is also charged with assaulting an agent for allegedly deliberately hitting an agent in the head with his knee when they tried to detain him.
Homeland Security is looking for potential victims of a former San Diego preschool teacher convicted of trading child porn. 29-year-old Paul Torres Jimenez de la Cuesta pleaded guilty last month. Agents arrested him last June at the My Room to Grow preschool and kindergarten in Poway. He also worked as a teacher and substitute at schools around the county. Investigators want anyone who has had contact with Torres to call Homeland Security's San Diego's office.
A police substation and several officers had to be decontaminated today. Officers brought a man into the Otay Mesa West station after finding evidence of drugs in a car that he was riding in. While patting him down, a bag with a white substance fell out of his clothing and exploded when it hit the ground. The substance got on several officers and the suspect. Fearing it was fentanyl, the suspect was taken to the hospital, and the hazmat crew came out to decontaminate the officers and the building. Everyone was okay.
Brokenhearted for my son. No child should have to see their parent laying bloodied in the street thinking they're dead.
From her hospital bed, a cyclist seriously injured by a hit-and-run driver is pleading for tips. ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chen has the video clues she hopes will lead to an arrest.
Just before 8 Sunday night, Holly Owen had just gotten off work and was on her bike headed to see her son at his father's house. A block from that home, she was at a four-way stop on the sidewalk on Ditmar Street, about to cross Cassidy Street.
Big black truck, and he was about half a block away approaching the stop sign. I had already been waiting, so it was my right of way. So I went.
She was nearly to the curb when she was hit.
And the next thing I know, there were just these two big pairs of truck headlights coming at me. Impact, flying through the air, hitting the ground, having the wind knocked out of me, and then just hearing a bunch of people shouting and then looking up, and there were a bunch of people standing over me.
Among the eventual crowd, her 11-year-old son, who ran out of his home.
No child should have to see their parent laying bloodied in the street thinking they're dead.
Owen was rushed to a hospital. The truck that struck her, long gone. Surveillance video shows a black truck headed from the scene toward the I-5 on-ramp. Witnesses say it never stopped and sped off.
It's disgusting. How could you leave a human being? How could you hit a human being and then leave them to die bleeding out in the street?
At the hospital, Owen diagnosed with a host of injuries, 2 spinal fractures, 3 broken ribs, road rash, and countless bruises. Her back fractures will require her to be in a body cast for 6 weeks as she begins her recovery and appeal for tips from her hospital bed.
I want people to turn him in or himself to turn himself in. I want justice. I could have died.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
Oceanside police believe the truck is a black Dodge Ram lifted pickup. We have a link to Owen's GoFundMe page on 10news.com.
There is new information on that cyber attack that has wreaked havoc on Scripps Health. Late this afternoon, Scripps did reveal its computer systems were hit by malware. Everything is still not back online at this point, causing major disruptions at Scripps hospitals and clinics. Some patients are being forced to reschedule their appointments.
A homeless camp is the likely cause of a brush fire near the San Diego River in Santee that burned about 4 acres this afternoon. Crews knocked it down quickly from the air and the ground. No one was hurt. The nearby Riverview condo community was also not threatened. Meantime, the fire burning east of Julian is 90% contained tonight. The southern fire broke out Saturday. It burned 5,300 acres along with 3 buildings. All evacuation orders have been lifted. The cause of the fire remains under investigation.
One of San Diego's most luxurious hotels is accused of stiffing the city out of more than $1 million meant to preserve habitat. Our ABC 10 News reporter John Horn dug into the city's new lawsuit against the exclusive Fairmont Grand Del Mar.
When I first moved there, it was dirt roads.
Lisa Ross has seen Carmel Valley's growth speed up over the decades, not just as a nearby resident, but as a former member of its planning board.
There's always pressure for housing. And so there's always pressure on our open spaces.
She recalls an intense negotiation in the mid-90s for a new 300-room hotel, 124 homes, and an 18-hole golf course on Carmel Country Road, what's now the exclusive Fairmont Grand Del Mar. To get her board's support, developer West Shaw Associates agreed to pay as much as $6.3 million to preserve natural habitat. The ownership would pay a share of room nights and HOA fees. San Diego voters approved the deal in March 1996.
We thought it was a good bargain.
But Ross got a surprise Wednesday when she learned that all these years later, the hotel, now under different ownership, has still not paid more than $1 million in those voter-required funds. The city spells out the allegation in a new lawsuit against the hotel, in which it is seeking $1.45 million in fees, reimbursements, and interest.
These funds were for acquisition. So the city has an opportunity here to acquire more protected open space and habitat, and there's more to purchase.
Ross says the money is needed given the push to build housing. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
We also contacted the attorney representing the Fairmont Grand Del Mar. We have not heard back.